Mount Everest is like a ticking time bomb or a kettle that's about to boil. The water is building up heat, and now with only about 50 successful summits on Everest and the season well into the second half, there are hundreds of climbers waiting down below for the weather conditions to improve so they too can have an opportunity to get to the top. I have an interview today with Angela Benavides of Explorers Web, who's going to talk about the conditions up there, but more importantly, we're going to talk about Mount Everest in general. Has the collective soul of Mount Everest been hijacked? What's changed over the years? Now are these thrill seekers and people who are going after world records going at the expense of Sherpa and high altitude workers who are literally losing their lives in order to help those people make their dreams come true? We're going to look into that. First, let's go over a couple of the stories that are taking place on the 8,000 meter peaks and beyond. Firstly, two Mongolian gentlemen disappeared attempting the mountain without oxygen or any Sherpa support recently. There's no word of their whereabouts. The gentlemen last made radio contact with base camp as they left Camp 4, 7:30 p.m. on Sunday. They planned to reach the summit the next morning, but they never contacted base camp again. They had been outfitted by 8K expeditions and had hired only base camp logistics, if you will, services. From 8K expeditions, they said they were confident in their skill and strength. They told us they were professional climbers and needed no Sherpa support. According to the Everest Chronicle, 8K expeditions actually offered them their guides for free, but the gentleman turned down the request. This is a very dramatic thing. I champion people who endeavor to climb Everest on their own means, but very much like in my story, which I did last year about the Hungarian Szilard Suhaida, having someone nearby, not to help you or assist you per se, but someone to keep an eye on you, to, if you will, smack you across the face if you are going off the cliff, literally and figuratively, is a good idea. I don't think that that takes away at all from your accomplishment of climbing without Sherpa support or supplementary oxygen. But more importantly, the first death reported on the 8,000 meter peaks was on Makalu this past week. A Sherpa died in support of an expedition that was geared toward putting somebody on the top of Makalu who was also in pursuit of a world record to climb the 14 8,000 meters peaks without oxygen the fastest. There are high altitude workers who are literally losing their lives. Need we look much further than Shishapangma last year when two Sherpa died helping two other individuals in pursuit of a world record to become the first woman from North America to climb all 14 8,000 meter peaks. This Sherpa who lost his life on Makalu was a highly experienced Sherpa. His name was Lakpa Tenji Sherpa. He was our head Sherpa in 2019 on Everest during our search for Sandy Irvin on the north side. An amazing individual, strong, charismatic, great personality, somebody everyone respected. He was in our film as well, Lost on Everest. I first heard from Jamie McGinnis, who was quite upset, who's known Lakpa many, many years. And one of the things that seemed to spark a little bit of curiosity was that the expedition outfitter notified the world about the great success of everybody reaching the summit, but it was days, actually several days, before they mentioned anything about Lakpa Tenji Sherpa having lost his life. In fact, Lakpa's family didn't learn about this until they read about it on social media. That is just not a good trend. Just late last week into the weekend, there was a summit push, and Climbing the Seven Summits, which is Mike Hamill's company, released some absolutely spectacular photographs from the summit of Everest that are mind-bogglingly beautiful. Little did anyone know that high winds were moving in, and so, as Angela will say in her interview a little bit later in this video, dozens of climbers had to turn around in very high winds, perilous conditions above the balcony and up toward the Hillary Step. So let's get to my interview with Angela Benavides, who talks about some of the more notable things that are taking place on the mountain, particularly the change in what's really happening on the mountain. Here we are, the middle of May, only 50-something summits on Everest. It's like a pot of water, like slowly on boil, and the little whistle is sitting there holding the steam in. And as those summit days dwindle, there's going to be a lot of anxious people up there. So people must be getting really edgy up there.
It is. Let's see what happens. Because plans have been broken, because there was a weather window opening last weekend, and it was supposed to be a long one, but it didn't, right? It turned out the jet stream went down, or for whatever the reason, the winds are very high right now. So many climbers and many teams who plan to summit along through this week, they have the plans delayed, right? And every day counts. And especially if we speak about money, every day increases the costs. So the next weather window is expected for next Monday.
Wow.
So let's wait and see what happens. One of the things I've been observing in the last few years, and I think it's interesting, is that people don't turn around, right? But right now, it's like, no, I have a summit planned for the something of May, and I'm going up. No, what do you mean you're going up? Well, that depends on the weather. That depends on how you're feeling. That depends on so many factors. But we sort of, people, or many climbers and many teams sort of take the summit for granted. And that's what is changing the whole industry and the whole logistic and the whole strategy. And that's why 45 climbers had to turn around at the balcony or even the Hillary Step last Monday in hurricane winds. Come on, you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be at the balcony on Everest with 70 kilometers per hour winds, because how that is going to be experienced to talk about, but you don't want to be there. So, well, let's see what happens. As far as there's been 2 casualties on Makalu, what I can say is none of them were accidents. And then at the moment we are speaking, there are 2 missing climbers on Everest, above Camp 4, right? Because they didn't report back. And I can't tell. There's nothing confirmed yet.
Well, so what we know of the 2 Mongolian climbers that's of note is that we do know that they are without supplemental oxygen or Sherpa support, and that they declined the offer by 8K Expeditions to help them at least with some kind of backup Sherpa support. And so they said they were professional climbers and didn't need any help. And it points out just like the story of Szilard Suhaida, who had nobody watching over him, and how being without oxygen on its own right is really going out on a limb, but having nobody standing by to at least kind of keep their eye on you, boy, that is like you're 50-50 almost.
Going alone on the mountain without oxygen, with no one to keep an eye on you, it's what is called high altitude alpinism. As you say, I've been covering mountaineering news for a long time, and not so long ago, that was the key of the game. I mean, it was a dangerous game, right? And that's why the decision making, the risk assessment, the experience and the skills and the physical and mental capacities were so important, because it was your life on stake, and no one but you could keep yourself alive, right? So what can I say about these Mongolian climbers? That's the key. We don't know. This is a debate that with lots of stakes, but it's probably in the core of all the talking that and all the changes that we are seeing, what we are seeing is that what we understood for high altitude mountaineering, it's over in Nepal 8,000ers. That's it. We're looking about, and then if we assume that this is over, and now we are into some kind of industry of experiential tourism and endurance sport, yeah, then it makes sense to make mandatory not to climb without a guide, right? Like they do in Tibet. And you know, in the north side of Everest, they do have systems. You don't set a foot on Everest on the north side if you haven't climbed a previous 8,000er, right? If you don't have experience. And no oxygen climbs are banned. In Nepal, they will need to decide what they want.
That is exceptional insight, because that's one of the things I've been talking about a lot this week. It's almost as if Everest itself hasn't changed, but the soul, if you will, the collective soul of the individuals, if you will, on the big group stage has changed. It's almost like it's a social media selfie destination, and these Mongolian guys who disappeared without oxygen. Honestly, I hope that they're okay. I'm not optimistic about that, but I like to hear about people trying that. And if we make a requirement for everybody, we're really just, it's over. Let's put it that way. The soul of the mountaineering community has been hijacked. It's over.
It is. There's another thing I would like to add, and it's also linked to the deaths on Makalu. So let's say we get these two Mongolian climbers, we get them a Nepalese guide, right? What would that mean? Would the guide have turned them around? Would it have the authority? What if both of them got into trouble? Was the Nepali guide supposed to save them both by dragging them down the mountains? Look, one of the things I think it's also need an urgent debate. It's the role, the challenges, the working conditions, and even the perceptions we have about the Nepalese people working on the mountains. I'm less and less comfortable with calling them Sherpas. Sherpas is old. Sherpa is an ethnic group. There are hundreds of people working in Nepal's mountains right there, from the Sherpa community, from the Gurung community, from the Bosa community. The workers, they're doing their work there. Some of them are guides, and they have training and accreditation. Some others just learn by experience. Some others are not skilled enough to that. We saw that in Pakistan. And yeah, in Nepal, they are more experienced, but there's still a long way to go, right? So what was the guide, the Nepali Sherpa, supposed to do with these two climbers who allegedly said that they needn't anyone by their side? And that gets me to Makalu, right? We had another worker who died. I don't know what happened because there's no information. The only thing I know is that it was not an accident. He didn't fall. It was not an avalanche. It was not a broken rope. It was not aesthetic falling, right? The guy died. Yeah, people die on the mountain. And that's what everybody say. And that's what is interesting. But then what is going to happen with the family? So what is going to, is in which circumstances this guy died? And I always have the same question. If this guy had been a foreign client, would it have happened the same? Perhaps, yeah, why not? There's a possibility, but I would like to be more sure. And that's one of the challenges the Nepal mountaineering industry has to tackle now. I mean, as soon as possible, right? Conditions for the Nepalese workers, for the local, it's their own country, for the local workers have to be improved.
Yeah, here is a group of Sherpa high altitude workers, perhaps is our new term. Boom, one of the best Sherpa in the industry is dead now. And his family just had their funeral service, and there's a cremation, and now they don't have a father.
as you say, I want to know, was there oxygen enough for Lakpa Sherpa?
Yeah.
20 hours long summit push, right?
That's 3 bottles of oxygen. I doubt he had 3 bottles.
Oh no, I'm sorry to disagree. It was 3 bottles of oxygen.
Yeah.
Not if you're on maximum flow and you're sipping oxygen from Camp 3.
Oh
And
boy.
we're talking about Makalu, right?
Yeah.
And they spent more than 24 hours. They spent nearly 2 days in Camp 3, waiting for the wind to go down.
I'd love to hear your comments in the section below, so please do share your thoughts. It's always a really interesting conversation. In the meantime, we'll be hoping for the well-being of all the individuals endeavoring to get to the top of the greatest mountain in the world, as well as the other 8,000-meter peaks, that there's no more harm or no more disappearances, and I'll make sure that I keep tabs for it and let you know what I know, and we'll take it from there. Thanks for watching. Do somebody a good deed. Don't ask for anything in return. Make the world a better place one step at a time. Peace be with you.